Everyone loves their 3% interest rate, but you may not actually love your home. This is what we call the golden handcuffs. We're locked into that payment because we love exactly how low it is, but in reality, we don't love this house, but 6% just seems like too much. Today, we're going to go over situations, that we've lived in and seen in conversations we've had with our buyers and sellers, and a strategy to make that psychological gap seem more manageable. So when it comes to that 3% interest rate that you have, that you want to stay with that payment, one of the biggest things we have to factor in is just how does the math shake out for this? We know that, hey, your monthly payment is going to be super low, and that next monthly payment is going to be much higher. But in reality, if we look at it like this, if prices go up, which they have been about 2.5% this past year, let's say that 3 years from now is when you will buy, and let's say rates did drop down to 5%. But during that time period, as rates go down, prices will most likely go up even faster. Let's say theoretically in 3 years, we have a 2.5% price appreciation for each year. We'll end that with 7.5% higher. You're at $500,000. Man, if I could do math quicker, it's like $40,000 more. So in theory, it's this of looking at what you have for a rate and what you're going to ultimately do in the future. It's understanding you can always refinance your rate, but you can't refinance your purchase price.
You don't live in your mortgage, you live in your home. And we need to start understanding that with this 3% interest rate or the golden handcuffs. So many people are unhappy with their house and driving 45 minutes or are out of bedrooms and crammed into their home, but they're afraid to move because of the 3% interest rate. And that's where taking those golden handcuffs off and going out and buying that next house, it's going to make you happier. You're going to like your house more. You're going to shorten that commute. It's going to give you most likely a higher quality of life, and understanding that emotional part behind it is a big reason to be able to make that move. I'm not telling you to go out and crank your debt to income up to 40%, but you can go at 35% and you will be comfortable and happier. The most recent transaction I just had was a client kind of in this similar situation. They had a 3% interest rate. We're kind of not really outgrowing their home, but we're tired of the location and just wanted something a little bit more, but we're uncertain about doing it. And in the grand scheme of things, they were able to figure out financially, yes, we can afford to do this. And we're able to go out and buy their dream property. So they went from their 3% interest rate. They went out and got acreage where they could have more space and more privacy, and are super excited and are super happy that they made that decision to break off the handcuffs. And yeah, they do have a higher interest rate, but they are more comfortable and happier going out that direction.
I actually have a couple of stories like this. I feel like my last year was the major theme where I'd have a close friend of mine reach out and go, hey, we have a property we're interested in. I don't know if we're going to do it, but we just want to be able to go see it. We don't love our house. Well, let's go take a look. Every time we go take a look, like, this is so much better than our home. You're like, man, but these payments are going to be a lot. I'm like, well, let's just run the numbers of what your house would be, how much equity you take out of it, and maybe put a strategy into where this makes sense for you. And each time they're like, oh, this ends up making sense. They end up doing it, and they love the houses they're in, and they're not house poor. They literally aren't. I did this exact thing. When it comes to this advice that we're giving you, we've lived it. I lived it. I had a 2.25% mortgage on a house that fit for me. It was a 4-level split to 1,800 square feet. We had 2 kids. There was 3 bedrooms. It was good enough. And it came to the point of going, at some point, we're going to do this. When should we? Because we're not going to stay here forever. We can't. We're probably going to have another kid, right? And we did have another kid. And what happened was we just went to, all right, let me see if I can find something. Let me see if it does make sense. I didn't know if I could afford it or not. I called and talked to the lender, talked to you, and was like, hey, will this work? Am I okay with this debt to income versus, what I was at before? Am I really going to leave 2.25 and this super low payment to double my payment kind of thing? And I think in it was like, I looked at it this way because I knew economically or real estate wise was going, I actually want to buy when interest rates are the highest, because I know prices will be the lowest in theory. So I found a property that we ended up loving. We bought it, and now actually, lo and behold, I should be able to refinance here soon. I went from 2.25 to 6.7875. My mortgage payment legitimately doubled, but I was able to take the equity from that property. I was able to do updates to my house. I finally have a house that's big enough for our family. We welcomed our 3rd child into this world, and they had a bedroom, and it was just one of these things of like, I'm glad I did it, because if if I wouldn't have done it then, I would have had to do it now. And I know that my house is definitely worth, let's say 5 to 10% more. And I can't refinance that purchase price, but I can refinance that interest rate. So I think when it comes to us having these conversations with you like this, we are salespeople. That is what we do, is to go, hey, you should buy, right? Or you should not buy. But I think in this is like, this is a thing that we hear and see. And we're not saying to go buy a house that's really expensive for you. It's not at all. But if you don't love your house, your 3% interest rate isn't as important or helpful to you as you may think, because that next house might just be worth it. And it might be cheaper than you think in the fact of a debt to income ratio thing. So just understanding that, understanding your equity, right? Because most people have 40 to 6% equity in their homes if they bought it before 2020. That's literally the increase that has happened. That is a giant chunk of change to be able to deploy correctly, if done smartly, with a good lender and a good agent to go, hey, my total overall debt payments are actually at $6,000, even though my mortgage is $2,000, because I got car loans, because I got student loans, because I got credit card debt. I have all these things I don't need to be spending on anyways. And if you sell your property and pay off those, well, hey, maybe actually the payment goes from $2,000 to $3,000, and you have earned wage increases, and you don't realize that your house you're in with 3% interest rate, you're at a 7% debt to income ratio, which is wildly cheap, which is great. You get to do a lot of things with that. But if you move into your dream home, you might actually be at 30%. You just didn't even know it. Literally just happened to my last client that I had. It was like, hey, I don't want to double my mortgage. I don't think we can afford it. I'm like, guy, for sure, you can afford it. You don't have to do this, but you can afford it. And that's not the problem at all. Here's something helpful to help you understand where you are at in your affordability journey and if the golden handcuffs timing is right for you. Click the link below and get access to our affordability calculator to help you understand where you're at.